What's up, folks? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I want to do something a little bit more experimental. So I've been thinking about this idea of using GPT-4 Vision to locate certain types of objects in an image in order to create Anki flashcards from images. So essentially, I want to be able to tell the model, look, here's an image. Can you hide out specific parts of this image so that I can quiz myself on this image later? If you don't know what I'm talking about, so what I do usually is I have these flashcards. I use Anki. If you don't know what Anki is, it's a software for creating flashcards that you can use to test yourself later about knowledge you want to encode. And I have a lot of Anki flashcards that use something called image occlusion, which is they hide a particular part of an image. Like an image like this, you would hide something like distal. Let me just see. Let me just reveal this image so that you see what I'm talking about. You see, and this is an example image. So we have parts of the image occluded, right? And now the one that's painted differently is the one that I'm supposed to guess. So in this case, this is the phalange. This is the proximal, middle, distal. So this is called proximal. It's a part of the finger. And now when I click it, there you go. It shows that part of the finger, and I know I got it right. So that's the point, okay? This is called graph deletions, which is when you take an image and create these rectangles over the image to occlude certain parts that you want to test yourself on. However, creating that manually is super annoying. So what I want to do, well, I want to use GPT-4 Vision to see how well and accurate I can be with automatically creating these patches over things that are inside an image. And I want it to be a general tool, not a specific object detection model that I can train on particular things, right? Because I want to be able to ask a query like, take this image, can you hide out the text from this image and output all the rectangle patches for all of the text. And then what I would like to do is have some sort of UI that's very simple. They already have the patches that were generated with the coordinates from the output of the model to just make some adjustments in the case of the model making some mistake and and just automatically create the flashcard. That's the idea. I know it's kind of bizarre. It sounds a bit bizarre, but I think that since I do that a lot and I use a lot of these image occlusions, if I actually got this thing to work, it would save me quite a bit of time. So let's see if we can do that. The truth is I already experimented a little bit with this because actually I recorded a 1-hour video doing a brainstorming of this problem. And I found out that the audio of the video was kind of bad. So I'm going to kind of go through what I found in this video, which is essentially some interesting ways that we can help GPT-4 Vision locate objects in an image. And I think I'm going to let the more flashcard related stuff for a next video where I do an evolution of this approach. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, next comment before we get started with this is that the actual inspiration for this particular problem came from a notebook in the AutoGen repository, because they have this very cool image chat application where you have agents interacting with some image and asking questions about the image, etc. And the figure creator, which is the second application, which is essentially using agents to interact with an image of a figure of some plot. And the idea is to have the agents kind of like iterate over that image until they get the figure to look the way they want. I guess that's what this thing does. I might be wrong, but whatever. The thing that we want to be doing here is see how good can we get GPT-4 Vision to locate objects. Why is that necessarily a problem? That's a great question. Well, actually, GPT-4 Vision, there are a lot of people trying to use GPT-4 Vision to automate web browsing tasks by looking at the entire window and identifying where it should be clicked or typed, etc. The problem is they found that the model is not very good at locating stuff within images, but there are interesting approaches to get around that. And there's this particular one that's really nice, which is Microsoft's set of marks, prompt set of marks. Yeah. So there's this set of marks prompting approach that I've recently found out actually on a video from, I think it's AI Jason, has a great YouTube channel. You should check it out. But essentially what this repo is doing is it's an approach where they overlay information on the image to help the model not only locate, but it kind of unlocks visual grounding abilities. At least it's what they say in this repo here. And it's kind of neat. I liked it. I like this idea of you overlay stuff like 1, 2, 3, 4, for example, here. And you can ask the model, like they're doing here, what's in 3? In the image, the item labeled 3 appears to be a plate of sliced fruit. So that's awesome. I think that's pretty cool. I like this approach. So I imagine I could use something like this to do the application that I'm thinking about. Today, we're going to explore a little bit on how to help GPT-4 Vision locate stuff in an image. So to do that, all we're going to do is, it's going to be relatively simple. So I'm going to have my imports. This is just to interact with the OpenAI API key. And I'm going to use OpenCV to do some stuff. I'm going to use requests, basic stuff. Now, the image that I'm going to be working with is this image, which actually, this is not the best way to visualize this image. I'm going to just call the image here. There you go. It's just a simple image of the top part of a hand because it's something that I'm interested in. I'm reading this book called Hands, which is pretty cool. And hands are really fascinating things on themselves. What we're going to be doing is I'm going to load the image like I'm doing here with OpenCV, and I'm going to encode it so that I can send to the GPT-4 Vision API. This is just your standard way to interact with the GPT-4 Vision API. I'm going to print out the shape of the image here. And now this is the meat of the stuff. This is where we interact with the API. So I have the code for encoding encoded as a function here because I actually just copied this from the OpenAI API. So I did it once and then I did it again. But I'm going to be loading an image. And as you can see, I'm calling this image grid. And that is because I wrote some helper functions to help me identify stuff in this image. So I'm going to show you what I mean. So I have these two helper functions here. We have two different approaches, and I'm going to put them up top so that we can be a little bit more organized. Before sending to the API, what these two functions are doing here is we have a function called make grid section, and essentially what this function does is take the image and overlay a grid on top of that image that I ideally would use to identify stuff in that image. So if I run make grid section here on the image, this is what we get. This is a simple 4-section grid. And the idea was that I tried this with a grid that was actually a little bit more like this, one that I'm drawing here, which was a little bit bigger with like multiple squares. But I found that the model was not doing very well with this image. So what I decided to do was to use only 4 sections and see if I could get some good results. However, even on this 4-section grid, there was a lot of even trying different prompts and things like that. The model was not very good at identifying that the text was present in section 1 and 4. The model kept saying that the text was in section 2 and 4, and it was kind of weird, and I tried different things and it didn't work. So what I decided to do was, okay, this is not working. Let's try to use color instead of naming stuff, because perhaps color is a bit simpler to identify. So I made this modification of the function, and now I colored the sections according to nothing. Just I got the same 4 grids that I did before, but instead of writing stuff on top of them, I'm coloring them differently. So we have a red section, blue section, green section, and yellow section. And as you can see, what I'm going to try to see is if the model can identify the section by the color that contains the information that I want. Obviously, this is not perfect, but I just want to see if this helps me locate the information a little bit faster. And I actually tried this and it worked. So hopefully it's going to work again. I have a prompt here that says, I divided this image into 4 sections, each represented by a different color, red, green, blue, and yellow. I only care about location of the text within the sections, identify which sections contain text describing the bones of the hand, and output the section color followed by all the factual text in that section. Obviously, I would improve this prompt if I was to make this a more general tool, but this is the general idea. And now when I run this, hopefully I'll get as good as a result as I got before. Let's see what we get. There we go. Red section, phalange, proximal, middle, distal. Yellow section, metacarpal. That's perfect. That's actually more text than I would like because this is already all the stuff that I actually wanted. This is the output that I wanted. And this is pretty cool. The model was able to identify the sections. I wonder if I could get this output, right? So first, let's try it out with less tokens. Let's see, the output was total 635 tokens. Let's the output should be something like 1,000 tokens, just because I want to make sure that the output only has the stuff that I want. Let's try that again with less tokens. Yeah, red, perfect. Phalange, green, no text, blue, yellow, metacarpal. That's annoying because now, yeah, I prefer the output from before. So let's, because in this output, I'm getting like, I'm going to explain that in structure. So I'm going to say output format, and then I'm going to identify that with triple single quotes. And I'm going to say section color, all the text in that section. Let's see if we get slightly better results. Red, phalange, yellow, metacarpal. I mean, it gets it right, but it's not getting the, I want all the text, not just the big names. I want all of the descriptive text. So it's phalange, there's also distal, middle, etc. Red, phalange, green, distal, middle, proximal, yellow, this. So now it's getting it completely wrong, and I just changed the max token. So you see how weird, and we're not in the perfect phase right now. So if I made this 2,000 tokens, red, phalange, proximal, middle, this, that's perfect. That's a perfect response. This is the response that I'm looking for. Let's try that again just to make sure that this is consistent. So I got the correct result when I changed the token size max. Yeah, there we go. Now we're getting this thing correctly. Perfect. So this is the perfect output. So color seems to help the model locate stuff on an image. However, it's not perfect as, because what I want is just to have a patch. I want to have automatically the patches over the text for this image, right? This is my goal. So how could I get there from this output? I mean, we could, let's see, we could go back to the grid approach and see if we mix it up, grid with colors. The colors help you kind of hone down on a particular square. And then we try to see if we can find the coordinates of the text within that section. Let's see what would happen if I just ask that to the model like this. I would say image.shape. Okay, so consider that this is the shape of the image. I divided this image, which has shape like this, and I can change that to a variable later, into 4 sections, and then I'm gonna say section color, all the text in that section, and then another one that would say the bottom left and top right coordinates of the particular piece of text. And let's see, at least for the big chunks of text, if we could get like a big patch on top of that. So I'm gonna try just doing like this, and then if this works, I'll try to set up something a little bit more like OpenAI function calling style, where I extract the actual information. So let's see if this works. I think it would be a bit hard, but we have this idea of 4 sections and the height and shape and stuff. So coordinates not available. Just like before, having the coordinates is a bit difficult. I mean, we can always infer, if we divided this thing into 4 and we know the initial shape, we can always try to infer or help out. Let's see if we put a grid over, a simple grid that has like these like 1x1 type spacings. Let's see if that helps somehow. So colored grid section, and then I'm gonna say that I want the remaining rectangles. I'm gonna make a third function that makes all the stuff. I know this is not like super beautiful, but I like these two functions as separate things. So I'm just gonna ask GitHub Copilot, modify this function so that it also has a customizable, so that the grid is customizable, so that the size of the grid is customizable. So let's see if we can do something like that. Let's see what happens. So I'm modifying that. That's great. Perfect. I think color grid section. Okay. Accept or discard. Saving, waiting for, tarari, tarara. Okay, there we go. make grid section, color grid section. Okay, make grid section colored, because, you know, I have no idea why there are two functions now with this stuff, but I think that the function that we want is this one. So let's, yeah, let's ignore that for a second. I'm going to say this image missing grid size X, grid size Y. Okay, let's say 100, 100. Okay, that looks terrible. And the sections are not colored and there's a lot of text on top. So what we want is to add, I don't want to add any text. And I do want to make the thing colored. I could paint over the output of that one, but I don't want to do that. So how should we do that? Color grid sections. What do we need? Let's try color grid section here, because this apparently is the new function. So let's try that. Color grid section, image 100, 100. Okay, this something worked. But yeah, index out of range because of the size of the colors. Yeah, the colors list. I have these colors, and then you loop over, and then you get color by the index. So when, let's just say something like if E is equal to 5, set it to 1. There you go. So it's like 1, let's start it at 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if it's equal to 4, set it to 0 again. There we go. I mean, all right. So it's not amazing, right? I think that I'm probably better off with just 4 big sections and then just putting some numbering, explaining where this thing is. But it's kind of neat. Let's see if this thing works. What do I need to test this thing out? I think that what I need to test this thing out is to maybe, let's just send it like this. Maybe like this, because the color and the gridding, for example, distal would be grid square number 3 and 4. Middle would be white square number 3 and 4. Proximal would be grid square number 3, 4, and also in the green one. I mean, it's true, like at least it would be less stuff, because I think that for GPT-4 Vision, if you do it as an index, if this, maybe we should do it as an index instead of the coloring. Yeah, maybe we do it as an index instead of having all these colors, because the colors do help, at least to find the big sections. But what I found is that if you do it by indexing all the locations of the grid, doesn't matter that you put the location like correctly, the model doesn't do a good job at locating the squares. So that's why I did the division in 4 sections. But I'm thinking that if I put it like 4 big sections with the grid, and then when we find a section, we say, but this could also work. I mean, we could say the coloring would help find the stripe where the text is located. I mean, remember that this is all like a very silly experimental brainstorming, because none of this is very scientific. We're just trying stuff out based on this empirical behavior that we see from GPT-4 Vision, because there's no explanation on why one thing is hard and the other is not. I mean, I do think there might be a more practical, concrete explanation on why the model is much better at detecting color, because probably the text that it sees is the content that it sees is much more concrete. It's the captioning. Yeah, the captioning probably works very well for, colored stuff. But let's try no color, just to make an indexed grid. Make indexed grid with 4 colored sections. Make index grid with 4. Yeah, exactly. So let's see if the model can do that. Complete this function that overlays a big 4 grid section with 4 different colors on top of an image, as well as a light gray grid with sizes 100, 100, and save the image, as well as output the final grid plus image. Yeah, let's see if we can get that to work and see if we can manage to hone in on the location. There's got to be something that we can do probably, but if we want to be very good at detecting the like a general set of things, having some overlaid information to help probably would be a good idea, but I want to make sure that this is coded and not something that we would do, case by case. So make indexed grid with 4 colored sections. So let's try that. Image. Perfect. There we go. That was very good. That is perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. Okay, so all I need now is to add a legend add a legend one by one to this grid. That's all I'm gonna do. Yeah, add a legend of one by one to this grid. I have no idea, so I'm just gonna say add a legend one to this little squares of this grid. Let's see if this works. Okay. That's cool, but I don't want to see numbers on top of all the squares. I just want to see like one by one instead of having that. So text, add the text. Just on the first one, I just want to add some text there. Yeah. So if x is equal to 1 or something like that. So here's what I'm going to do. So the rest is correct, right? So I'm going to just say if x equal to 1 and y equal to 1, or yeah, you do this. Okay, let's see. No, that didn't work. So maybe it's not 1, maybe it's like, because it's from 0 to this, and the size, the jump is 100. X plus grid sata. If x is, let's just print x and print, yeah, let's print x and y just to see what values we get. 0, 0. Yeah, okay, so 0, 0. Thank you. So if x is equal to 0 and y is equal to 0, we're going to say we're going to get that location, and we're going to put what? We're going to put the, not string j, but we're going to say size 1, or just going to say like 1. 1 by 1. There you go. Yes. Okay, I think this is cool. All right, this could work. I'm not sure if this is gonna work, but if it works, it's gonna be nice. Okay, so this was saved as test save image grid. So let's take a look. Okay, here we go. This is our test image. So what do we want? We want the model to be able to say something like, okay, so it's in the red section and third column, output some kind of information about the location of the text, okay? So we have the text on this section and on that section, taking up 3 rows, 3 columns, and 1 row in the yellow section. So let's see if we get that. So let's take a look. Okay, make index grid, ta-da-dee-ta-da-da. So we have the grid image. So we have this. So I divide this image in which, now, doesn't matter the shape. So I'm not going to put information about the shape because that gets confusing. I have this image into, I divided this image into 4 colored sections, red, green, blue, and yellow. I only care about the location of the text within the sections, where the small grid squares have size 1 by 1. So I only care about location of the text within the sections identified with through the grid squares. Through the grid squares. Identify which sections contain text describing the bones of the hand and output the section color followed by all the text in the section, as well as the grid square location for that grid squares that cover the text. And that's it, bottom left. And grid square, I'm going to change this to grid square location. Let's see what I get. I don't think this is the best prompt ever, but we can iterate if we see that this is a, there we go. Okay. All right. So first let's see. I think we got something. We didn't because it's not red. It's not blue, it's red. Okay. So that's bad. Blue phalange. That's just not true at all. It's red. Test image grid. Yeah, so test image grid is the correct thing, but it's getting the wrong thing. Okay, so that's frustrating. Let's try that again. At least we're getting some information about location of the grid squares, so we can see what's up. Red, phalange 1 by 1. Let's see, phalange 1 by 1. That's not true at all. I mean, it's in the red section, but it's not 1 by 1. It's I don't know. I'm not giving the model any kind of information about how it could. I'm trying to see if the model can just figure it out. So it's in the second column, third row type of thing. So red proximal, it's chew 1. I mean, at least red proximal, chew 1. Chew 1. That's not chew 1. Okay. Middle, choo-choo. Middle, choo-choo. It's not true at all. Okay, so let's try to see if we can explain how the grid square system works. I don't care about location of the text within the section identified to the grid squares. For example, if a piece of text is in the red section, identify which rows in columns in terms of grid squares it covers. There you go. Let's see if that works. So now we're going to test that again. And one thing that I think could be cool is that structure this as an experiment where I'm like, every time I run this, I already get the output and patch the square. Okay, so yellow, phalange, that's already very wrong. Proximal, that's super, super wrong. That's not correct at all. Remember, phalanges is in the red section. So we're going to have to iterate on that because the model is making a lot of random mistakes. It usually gets it right, but then it gets it wrong. It's very annoying. Let's try that again because I'm hopeful that we're going to improve a little bit. Okay, green phalange. Oh, come on. Come on. That's true. We should base 64 image. Yeah. Okay, green phalange. No, that's very wrong. But I realized that we don't have to be re-encoding the image all the time. So let's just come here, test image grid. That's correct. Base 64 image. Okay, so let's try that again. Let's see what happens. I'm gonna just add like more max tokens. That usually helps. I don't know why. Let's see if we get it right. Blue, come on. Blue has nothing. Rows 1, 4. At least we can have the model interact with the rows and columns and stuff. But everything here is just incorrect. I'm going to try one more. All right, so now the model just doesn't make it. Now it's making mistakes with respect to the colors, which in the past was... But the model is pretty good at identifying the section. I wonder if we cut the image in the section and see if the model can identify then the grid system based on that smaller portion of the image, because we remove a lot of stuff, right? So we already see that the model can identify by color. So let's cut a smaller portion of this text and see if we can get the identification of the grid within this thing, because indeed this image has a lot of stuff and not a lot of text, and even the text itself is a little bit occluded by the grid. So let's see if we can do that. I'm gonna just crop, and I actually have a great tool to do that. So I can go matplotlib crop tool. Nice. And I'm gonna take my test image grid, .png, and connect, show a save fig test image grid cropped section. Let's see if that works well. Okay, cool. In Jupyter Notebook, that's not going to work very well, but okay. Yeah, that's not going to work very well. So we're going to run this as a script, Or I'm going to be smart. I'm going to see if GitHub Copilot knows how to make this work within Jupyter Notebook. Adapt the script to run interactively in the Jupyter Notebook. So let's see if we can get this cropping tool to work well. Okay, so that was it. All right, hopefully that works. No, it does not. It's okay. We're gonna run it as a script. Yeah, I'm just gonna create a script here called crop image .py. I'm gonna erase this, run this, and now I can say crop image. I can go here, remove this, go back there, go back there and run it. Perfect. Now I have my crop image. I'm just gonna crop the section that I'm interested in. I think it's S for saving, hopefully. Yeah. Cropped image.png. Beautiful. So now let's see that our image was indeed cropped. Yes. So now let's see if we can get the location stuff to work when we use it on this smaller portion, right? Because then all we have to do is break this problem down into 2 steps and we're good. So now I'm going to just copy this because I'm lazy to do anything good programmatically. So I'm just going to come here and I'm going to say, so this image has a grid square system with measures of 1 by 1. Identify in terms of grid squares the locations for all the text inside the image. For example, your output should be something like this. So we're going to exemplify like row 1 to 3, column 1 to 3, text bone X, something like that. Okay, let's see if we get this to work. So now what we got to do is we got to encode the image that we have. So I'm just going to say, yeah, I'm going to identify. This is going to be cropped image path. Cropped image path is cropped image, base64 image. And now I can run this and let's see if we get the location. Let's hope for it. Come on, come on, come on. Let's see if we can identify the proper location. Okay, so content, row 1, 2, column 0, 1, text 1, 1. Okay, that's correct. Row 5, 6, column 0, 1, text phalanges. Okay, that's probably not correct, but let's see. Row 5 to 6, let's see, cropped image, and I'm gonna put it here on the side. So the model said row 5, 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it got 1 off, but let's assume it was measuring from top to bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's saying 5, 6. That's okay. Column 0, 1. That's correct. Okay, so phalanges, they got it right. It got it kind of, I mean, it said row 5, 6, but it's fine. Row 5, 6, column 0, 1. That's perfect. There we go. And then text phalanges, right. Row 1, column 1 to 2, text distal. Row 1, it's already wrong. Column 1, 2, 1, 2, we can say 1, 2 is here. But yeah, distal is wrong. So distal is wrong. Middle, let's see middle. It said row 2, 3. Okay, row 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. No, middle is completely off. And column is 1, 2. Also completely off. So it's not doing a great job at identifying. It identified the phalanges, but it didn't identify the rest. Oh well, we've tried. I think I'm gonna stop here for now, folks. I know this was a bit more of an experimental video, so sorry about that. But I think this is a cool topic to explore, how we can overlay information on top of images to help with location problems for GPT-4 vision processing. This is something that's being explored now, and I think it's pretty cool. I think could be one of the keys to unlock some powers with these models for things like browsing the internet and doing stuff like performing actions on top of an image, given that image. So hopefully you took something out of it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you next time. Cheers.